everybody, James Akers here, and I'm here to talk to you about something really exciting. Safe buckets! Okay, maybe not that exciting, but we're still going to talk about safe buckets because they are an important part of a smart investor's portfolio. So safe buckets, we're building the protective foundation of your portfolio. In today's uncertain market, having a well-defined safe bucket within your portfolio, it's not just prudent, it is essential. So in this presentation, we're going to talk about four very popular safe buckets. I know there are more out there, but the four that we come in contact with the most, we're going to get those four. First, we're going to look at what is a safe bucket, okay? Safe bucket, essentially it represents the conservative portion of your portfolio. It's designed to protect your principal against market volatility and downturns, to provide predictable, steady growth, to balance and offset the riskier assets you may have in your portfolio, to ensure liquidity for near-term needs, and to create a psychological safety net during market turbulence. Now, I want you to think of it as like the foundation of your financial house. Without it, the entire structure becomes unstable. So let's look at the first of the four really popular safe buckets, CDs, bank CDs, okay? Very popular choice for a lot of people. Let's look at the pros and cons, okay? The advantages are it's FDI insured up to $250,000 per depositor per bank. They're simple. They have predictable returns with guaranteed interest rates. They're very low risk with virtually no principal loss if you hold them all the way to maturity. There's a wide range of options, usually anywhere from 3 months to 5+ years, all depending on your bank. And there's no management fees or ongoing costs, okay? Now, on the negative side, though, there's a lot of limitations. You have early withdrawal penalties, and they can be substantial. Interest rates are usually very low when you compare them to some other possibilities for safe buckets, and they often do not outpace inflation. Growth potential is capped, and it's predetermined. What you see is what you get, nothing extra, right? And interest is taxable annually unless it's in some sort of a qualified retirement account. And there's no flexibility. So you can't capitalize if the market or the interest rates were to rise. You're locked in where you were. So a CD works best for investors who need absolute certainty of principal return and a known interest rate over a specific time horizon, okay? So up next, we have the U.S. Treasury securities, another very, very, very popular safe bucket, okay? The advantages to those are they're backed by the full faith and credit of the United States government. That's pretty solid, okay? There's a lot of options. You can get bills a year or less, you can get notes from 2 to 10 years, and you can get bonds 20 to 30 years. You can go decades out with these. And they're relatively liquid on the secondary market. You can usually sell your U.S. Treasury to someone else looking for the same thing. Their interest is exempt from state and local taxes. So if you live in a state that has a tax, you'd be exempt. I live in Nevada, don't have to worry about that. And they can be purchased through your broker or directly from the Treasury. The limitations, however, are they have historically low yields when compared to other fixed income options. That's some of the trade-off for the guarantees and the security. And the interest rate, there's an interest rate risk if it's sold before it matures because the prices fall when rates rise. Okay, and it may not outpace inflation, which can result in a loss of purchasing power. You know, if you have a 2% interest and inflation is 4%, you're losing purchasing power every single year. And they're less attractive when rates are going up, in rising rate environments. And federal taxes do still apply on the interest that is earned. Okay, so let's look at a dirty word. Okay, I'm going to talk dirty to you. We're going to talk about annuities, right? A lot of people see that as a dirty word. It's actually not. They can be a very good product for a portfolio based upon your situation and your need. There's two types of annuities we're going to look at today. The first one are what we call MYGAs, or multi-year guaranteed annuity. So let's look at multi-year guaranteed annuities. We call it the quote-unquote CD-like product. It is not a CD. It is not a bank product. It is not backed by the FDIC or insured by the FDIC. It's backed by the insurance carrier. Make sure we're clear on that. But let's look at the advantages, okay? The reason we call it CD-like is because it has a guaranteed fixed rate for the contract term, similar to a CD. Sound familiar? And they're usually anywhere from 3 to 10 years, depending on the carrier. They often have higher yields, almost always have higher yields than comparable CDs. You get tax-deferred growth, which means the interest compounds without annual taxation. And some contracts offer partial withdrawals without penalties. For example, a lot of the carriers will have, let's say they offer you a 6% interest rate if you need to take up to 10% of your money out each year. Or they'll offer you 7% if you agree to never take any money out. That's just an example. It could be 5 or 6 or whatever, but usually there will be some incentives there. So a lot of them do offer you to take some of your money out early if you were to have an emergency or need that, okay? And the death benefit of an annuity does pass on to your beneficiary, typically avoiding probate because it is an insurance product. What are the negatives? What are the limitations? Well, glad you asked. They have limited liquidity with surrender charges for early withdrawals. Very similar to a CD, again, quote unquote CD-like, right? They're backed by insurance company financial strength, not the FDIC. So if you're going to buy one, look at the AM Best rating of that carrier. Make sure they have good, solid financial footing. There's a 10% IRS penalty for withdrawals before 59.5, especially when we're dealing with retirement accounts. And contracts are often complex. They have various features and restrictions, so make sure you dig into that, or you have an advisor or an agent that you really trust. And commissions and fees are usually built into the product, so you don't have to pay anything extra on that, but that's why the interest rates are where they are. So MYGAs can be an excellent option for investors that are looking for a higher guaranteed rate than a CD, but they also want to look at some tax deferral opportunity, especially in tax advantaged accounts. That's a MYGA. Let's look at the next type of very popular annuity used for safe bucket, which would be a FIA, or a fixed index annuity. This is what we call the safe plus growth option, okay? Growth potential option. The advantages are you get zero floor. In other words, it's index based, which we'll talk about, but if the index goes down under zero, you don't lose any money. So you have that guarantee of no losses, zero floor, but it has upside potential. Because it's tied to a market index, you can make more money than you could in, say, a MYGA or a CD if the markets are up. Has a higher ceiling, which gives you potentially a greater opportunity to make more money or greater returns than on the traditional fixed products like the Treasury or the CD. It has tax advantages like the MYGA. The growth remains tax deferred until you take distribution or take withdrawal. And it does have income options. So let's say you're 60 and you buy a 10-year fixed index annuity and you decide to retire at 66. Then you have the choice to keep it like it is, or you can usually, again, depending on the product, convert that to a guaranteed income for the rest of your life if you would prefer. There are usually some options like that. But here's the important considerations. There are participation limits, which can limit the growth by caps, spreads, or participation rates. What that means is, let's say you have yours indexed to the S&P 500. And let's say the S&P 500 is up 10% for the year, okay? Not a bad year, right? But let's say your annuity is capped at 8. That means you can only make 8%. Even though the index was at 10, you'll make 8. So that's what that cap actually means. So there are some complexities like that. And there's a lot of features and variables that you need to understand. It does have surrender periods like the MYGA and like the CD, which are usually between 5 and 10 years, depending on the product. But they do have declining penalties. So usually, let's say it's a 10% penalty year 1. Year 2 is going to be, say, 9%. Year 3, 8%, 7, 6, it goes down. Depending on the product, don't quote me on those numbers, but it's usually somewhere in that range. And the crediting methods they use various methods to affect how the interest is calculated. My advice is to always use, if you buy one of these products, use an index that you can look up yourself, like the S&P 500. Some carriers have a proprietary index that you just wouldn't be able to look up yourself. And of course, the carrier strength is important, which could be a limitation because it's backed by the financial stability of that carrier. So make sure it's a reputable insurance company. So that's how the fixed index annuity works. So let's look at a side-by-side comparison of these 4 different types of safe buckets. We look at the safety of principal category. CDs are excellent because they're backed by the FDIC. Treasuries are excellent because they're backed by the government. And the annuity products are very good because they're backed by a reputable insurer, which has to be licensed, of course, in your particular state. Liquidity. CDs are very limited. Annuities are very limited because all 3 of those have surrender periods. Treasuries are good because you can usually resell them on the market. But you could be at risk, of course, to loss of a little bit of interest or principal based upon where the rates are at that time, okay? Growth potential. CDs and treasuries are very low because they're fixed. MYGAs are low to medium because they're fixed, but they generally have a little bit higher interest than a CD or treasury. And the fixed index annuities will be considered medium because they're index linked. So you can have more growth in them if the markets are up. On inflation protection, CDs and treasuries are poor because they are, again, they're locked in. and they usually do not keep up with inflation depending on the interest rate and inflation. So we consider those poor for inflation protection. The annuities on the MYGA, they're poor to fair, so a little bit better. And the fixed index annuity fair to good because they do have that upside potential. Tax treatment. CDs are taxed annually. Treasuries you only pay federal tax on. The annuity products are tax deferred until you take distribution or withdrawal from them. Cost structure. No fees on the CDs. Treasuries are usually minimal depending on what your broker charges, and the annuity products, the fees are built in, so you're not going to pay extra on top. So if you bought a $100,000 annuity, that $100,000 goes straight to the annuity itself. Your agent or broker would be paid a commission by the carrier. They would not charge you a fee on top of that. So that's how that works. Current market environmental impact, okay? So how do today's conditions affect our safe market? Well, the interest rate trend. After significant hikes, rates are nearing a peak, so they're probably going to start going down, but that makes fixed interest products more attractive now. They will be, say, in a year from now or 2 years from now. Inflation concerns. Despite a cooling, inflation remains above historical averages, has been cooling a little bit now, looking better, but that challenges fixed index products. Market volatility. So heightened uncertainty increases the appeal of the principal protection of a safe bucket. And of course, the yield curve. We've been in an inverted yield curve for a little while now, and that rewards shorter term commitments in products like CDs, treasuries, things like that. Whereas on the opposite side of that, the fixed index annuity gives you the market upside. Okay, so strategic opportunity is that current environment provides favorable entry points for fixed rate products currently, while index-linked options offer protection against potential market corrections. Okay, let's get down to the end of things here. We got a couple more slides to show you. The key takeaways are all of these offer 100% principal protection. 2 of them are backed by the government, 2 of them backed by insurance companies. So assuming that they don't go insolvent, then we look at those as safe, 100% safe products. Tax efficiency. Annuities do offer a superior tax advantage over treasuries and over CDs because of the tax deferred growth, which that could actually increase your net return by 15 to 25% based upon your tax bracket. Growth potential. The fixed index annuities can capture a portion of market gains while eliminating downside risk, which provides meaningful higher upside than any of the other safe options. So the optimal safe bucket typically involves a combination of these vehicles. You want to strategically position to address specific time horizons, liquidity needs, growth objectives in your overall financial plan. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. And finally, we want to find a balance in our balance of protection and opportunity. So first, I want you to consider your personal risk tolerance. That way you can find the right safe bucket. Make sure it aligns with your time horizon. For example, if you're doing a Roth conversion through the backdoor provision, you've got to wait 5 years to touch that money anyway, so locking into something for 5 to 10 years is not as bad of an option there. Just one quick takeaway. So make sure that you look at your time horizon and assess your tax situations. You need those taxes deferred. Are you going to have more income now than later when you go into retirement? Those are things that you want to look at when you're looking at your safe buckets. Which one fits you best? So your financial advisor can help you structure a safe bucket strategy that addresses your concerns, optimizes these vehicles for you, creating the ideal foundation for your broader investment portfolio. If you need more help with this, I'd be happy to help. Anyone that watches my videos, I will give a free 45-minute consultation to. We do it through Zoom or Google Meets, where I'll meet with you through camera, see if we can help you analyze some of this, help you optimize some of this. That's what I'm here for. My name is James Akers. I hope I've helped you understand a little bit more about these 4 very popular safe bucket options for your portfolio. Have a great day.